this is Year 10 Methods Pathways. We'll look at 5.6, which is rearranging formulas. So the key to rearranging formulas is you need to know how to apply inverse operations to make something the subject. Okay, so the opposite operation of plus is subtract, the opposite of multiply is divide, the opposite of squaring is square rooting, the opposite of cube rooting is to raise to the power 3. And what you do to one side, you need to do to the other. Okay, so those are the keys to successfully rearranging formulas. So let's do 1a. Rearrange this formula to make whatever's in the brackets the subject. Okay, we want to make h subject. So we've got a equals a half b h. Okay, timesing by a half is the same as dividing it by 2. Okay, if you times something by a half, it's like saying 50% of that thing, so it's dividing by 2. So I've got a 2 at the bottom, so that you need to apply the inverse operation. So I need to times 2 on both sides to get rid of the 2 over here. So we get 2a equals b times h, because we've already applied the inverse operation times 2 and divide 2, get rid of each other. Now, to get h on its own, we need to divide both sides by b. Okay, divide both sides by b. So we're left with the b's go away here. So we're left with h equals 2a on b. Okay, that's 1a for you. That's question 1a. Let's do question 1c. Okay, 1c. We've got a equals a half r squared theta. Now again, we've got a divide by 2 because it's times by half. So we need to times by 2 times by 2 because we want to make theta the subject. So we got 2a equals r squared theta. I can divide both sides by r squared to get rid of the r squared because it's r squared times theta. So the opposite's divide by r squared. So if we do that, we get theta equals 2a on r squared. Let's go over 1d. Okay, 1d. I'm going to do it over here. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's Pythagoras, isn't it? We want to make b the subject. Okay, so I want to subtract a squared from both sides because I want to isolate the b squared. So we get c squared minus a squared. Now, the opposite of squared, we got b squared here. The opposite of squared is square root. So I squared both sides. That only becomes a b, and we get a c squared minus a squared. What's important to note is when I square root something, I get a plus and minus answer. Okay? Whenever I square root something, I get a plus or minus answer. Now, you're probably not used to this idea, but let's just say, for example, I get x squared equals 2. Okay? There are two possibilities that for x that gives me that answer. I can, let's just say, no, actually, x squared equals 4. There are two possibilities that give me that answer. What is 2 squared? 4, right? What is negative 2 squared? Or negative 2 times negative 2? Positive 4. Can you see that there are two possibilities? I can have a plus 2 as the answer or subtract 2 as the answer. That is why whenever I square root, I have to consider the negative possibility as well, which is why I have plus or minus the square root of c squared minus a squared. Okay, so that's really important that whenever you square root something, you get the plus or minus solution of it. Okay. So we'll have a go at question. We'll do 1g. We'll do 1g. So I'll do this in a different color. We'll do 1g. So for 1g, I've got t equals s squared minus 1 on 6. And we're trying to make s subject. So can you see we've got a square root sign? I want to get rid of it. So you need to square both sides. So t squared, when I square both sides, it gets rid of the square root. We got to divide by 6, so I need to times both sides by 6. So we get 6t squared equals s squared minus 1. I want to get rid of the 1 here, so plus 1 on both sides. So we get 6t squared plus 1 equals s squared. Now, we've got x squared. We've got a scenario where we need to square root both sides. So we get plus or minus 6t squared plus 1 equals s. Okay. Again, when I square root both sides, I get the square root of it, but I get the plus or minus solution. Okay. So that's how you do 1g. For question 2, we want to rearrange the formulas in the bracket and make something a subject again. Okay, let's do, okay, A is pretty simple. Actually, we will do A. A equals s squared, so when you take the square root of both sides, you get plus or minus square root of A equals s. Okay, and when you need to sub in when A is 27. Okay, so s equals plus or minus the root of A, which is 27, plus or minus 27 can be simplified as a third, because that's 9 times 3. Again, that's a square number. Square root of 9 is 3 root 3. Okay, plus or minus 3 root 3. We'll have a go at 2d. Okay, f equals g m1 m2 divided by r squared. So I want to find this, make r subject and sub in all these values. So in order to get r as subject, this is a bit tricky. Okay, we've got r squared at the bottom. We want it to be at the top first. Okay, so I want to do something called reciprocate. Reciprocate both sides. So it means flip both sides. This is f on 1, or it's the same as f. So I can, when I flip it over, I get 1 on f. When I flip this over, I get r squared equals g m1 m2. I want to times both sides, because it's all divided by g m1 m2. I want to times both sides by g m1 m2 times g m1 m2. So I get g m1 m2 divided by f equals r squared. So r would equal, I'm squaring both sides, plus or minus g m1 m2 divided by f. Okay. Now I want to find the value of r when f is 16, g is 18, and m1 m2 are 6 and 5 respectively. So plus or minus g 18 times m1, 6 times m2, 5 divided by 16. Okay. Now let's work this out on a calculator, because I don't know what that is. 18 times 6 times 5 divided by 16. 33.75. Let's work out what the exact value is. So I go standard instead of decimal. 135 on 4. So r equals plus or minus 135 over 4. That can be rewritten as the square root of 135. I don't know what it is, but the square root of 4 I can definitely find. It's 135 over 2. Okay, so root 135 over 2 should be able to simplify that. Okay, I haven't simplified that further, so it's plus or minus 3 root 35 on 2, 3 root 15 on 2, 3 root 15 over 2 as my simplest answer. Since this is calculator allowed, you're not expected to do this part by hand. Okay. We'll do one more, or we'll do 2 more. We'll do 3 part I. 3 parts A. Rearrange this form to make AY a subject. So A equals AX, A subscript X plus A subscript Y. I can square both sides to get rid of the square root sign. AX plus AY. I can subtract AX from both sides. So I'm left with A squared minus AX equals AY. Okay, which is what we wanted as AY as subject. And we sub in A equals 9 and AX equals 43. 9 times 9 is, so 9 squared minus 43 equals AY equals 2. Calculate aloud, so 81 minus 43. 38. Okay, so that's 38. Okay. Question 7. The formula for the surface area of a cone is given by that. Rearrange the formula to change the subject, the height of the cone, when the volume is that and the radius is that. Okay, so we want to make height the subject. V equals a third pi r squared h. Now, to make height subject, essentially the height is times all this blob. Okay, so I can divide the whole thing by the blob. So I can divide both sides by a third pi r squared. A third pi r squared. Okay, that goes away. So left with height equals V on a third pi r squared. I want to sub in the volume of 312 and the radius of 14. So third pi 14 squared. Let's work that out. 312 divided by a third pi r squared. Pi 14 squared. 14 squared. Put double brackets. Okay. So we get, I want it in decimals. 1.52. Okay, 1.52. The height is 1.52 meters. Okay, and that's 14, just in case you're wondering. For B, make radius subject. Okay, so this is for A. For B, we need to rearrange it to make R subject. Can you see R squared is times by a third pi h? So you can rewrite this as a third pi h r squared. Because they're multiplied, it doesn't matter what the order is. 2 times 3 times 2 is the same as 2 times 2 times 3. Okay, so this is what I've done. I've just rearranged the order of the multiplication to clearly see that to get r squared on its own, I need to divide both sides by third pi h. So divided by third pi h. So this gives me r squared equals, that cancels, v divided by third pi h. Okay, r alone is the square root, plus or minus square root v pi third pi h. Now, in this case, we're talking about a radius. A radius cannot be negative, can it? Okay, so we disregard the negative solution. So r is just the positive version, a third pi h. Okay, so I sub in the values it gives me. The volume is 160, and the height is 8. So third pi times 8. Okay, I work that out. Let's see what we get. Let's see what we get. So 2 decimal places. Square root of 160. So I'm going to use the fraction key. 160 divided by a third times pi times 8 times 8. So it gives me 4.37 centimeters. So that's how you do these questions. You just got to know how to apply the inverse operation, and just be aware that the orders of multiplication can be changed to in a form which suits you. In this case, the order of operation is changed so that r is alone, and you've got this blob which you can divide away. Hopefully